The old alien soldier sat in the dark room. His name was Commander Vex 9. Many scars covered his body from the war against humans. One of his eyes was gone, replaced with a metal one that glowed red in the dim light. Young alien officers sat around him, waiting to hear his story. They had never fought humans before. They thought it would be easy stories about winning against weak enemies. Commander Vex 9 looked at each young face. They did not know what was coming. They did not understand what humans really were. He began to speak in his rough voice. "You think you know about humans," he said. "You think they are weak, you think they are stupid, you are wrong. I will tell you what really happened in the war. I will tell you why we stopped fighting them." The young officers leaned forward. They wanted to hear about great victories. They wanted to hear how their people crushed the humans easily. But Vex 9's next words made them feel cold. The war started 5 years ago. Our leaders said humans were nothing, just a small planet with basic ships. They had only 12 spaceships. 12. We had thousands. Their leader was Captain Jake Morrison. He flew an old ship called the UES. Defiance. Our generals laughed when they heard this name. They sent only one small group to deal with what they called the human problem. Vex 9 stopped talking. He touched his metal eye. The memory still hurt him. "I was there for the first battle. It was near the big planet Jupiter. We came with 50 ships. The humans had only 3 ships left. 3 against 50. Any smart species would run away or give up. But humans are not like other species." The room was very quiet now. The young officers could feel something bad was coming in the story. "We told them to surrender. Captain Morrison answered us himself. He said something I will never forget. He said, 'We don't know how to quit. Come and take us if you can.' Then he did something that made no sense. He flew his damaged ship straight at our biggest ship." One young officer made a sound of disbelief. "He killed himself?" "Not just himself," Vex 9 replied. Lieutenant Amy Parker was with him in a smaller ship. Her ship was already burning, fires everywhere. Any normal being would try to escape. But she turned her burning ship into a weapon. She crashed it into our main ship's engine. The explosion was huge. Vex 9 stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the alien city sparkled with lights. But his mind was still in that old battle. That was when I first understood. These humans were different. They did not fight to win. They fought to never lose. There is a big difference. When you fight to win, you can retreat and try again later. When you fight to never lose, you will die before you give up. He turned back to the young officers. Some of them looked scared now. The human ship Defiance was breaking apart. Captain Morrison could have used escape pods. Instead, he kept fighting. He used his ship's last power to send a message to all human colonies. The message was simple. They want to make us slaves. Show them what humans do to those who try to chain us. The alien commander sat down again. His voice got quieter, but more frightening. What happened next changed everything. Every human colony got that message. And something started that we did not expect. They did not panic. They did not surrender. They got angry. Very angry. A young officer asked, "But sir, they were just a few colonies. How could they fight our whole empire?" Vex 9 made a sound that might have been laughter, but it had no humor in it. "That is what we thought too. We were so wrong. The humans had been planning for war long before we arrived. Not war against us specifically. War against anyone who might try to control them. They had studied every war their species ever fought, and humans have fought many, many wars." He pulled out a data pad and showed images to the young officers. Pictures of human ships, human weapons, human soldiers. "Look at these faces. Do you see fear? Do you see doubt? No. You see determination. You see beings who have decided they would rather die than live as slaves. This is what makes humans so dangerous. They are not afraid of death. They are afraid of being controlled." The images showed human soldiers who looked very ordinary, men and women who seemed no different from any other species. But their eyes held something that made the young aliens uncomfortable. After Captain Morrison died, the humans changed their strategy. They stopped trying to fight us ship to ship. Instead, they started fighting like nothing we had seen before. Colonel Ben Hayes took command of all human ground forces. The first thing he did was evacuate all civilians from combat zones, but he did not send them away from the fighting. He sent them to make more weapons. Vex 9 paused and looked directly at each young officer. Children, old people, everyone who could hold a tool was making bombs, guns, and traps. The humans turned their entire society into a war machine, not because their leaders forced them, because they chose to. Every single human chose to fight rather than surrender. The room felt colder now. The young officers were beginning to understand that this story would not have a happy ending for their people. The worst part was not their weapons or their ships. The worst part was their minds. They thought about war differently than us. We fight to conquer. We fight to show we are stronger. Humans fight to survive. And a species that fights only to survive will do things that seem impossible. Commander Vex 9 looked out the window again. The lights of the city seemed dimmer now. I will tell you about the battles that followed. I will tell you what humans did when we tried to take their colonies. I will tell you why our empire, with all its power and technology, learned to fear beings who use simple metal and fire as weapons. But first you must understand this. We did not lose because we were weak. We lost because we tried to fight a species that sees death as just another weapon to use against their enemies. The old commander sat back down. The young officers waited, in silence. They were no longer eager to hear victory stories. Now they were afraid of what came next. Commander Vex 9 watched the young faces around him. They looked worried now. Good. They needed to understand what was coming. He continued his story. After the first battle, our leaders got angry. They said we were weak. They said humans got lucky. So they sent more ships, many more ships. They also sent me to lead ground forces on the human colony world of Kepler 442b. The old alien touched a scar on his arm. It still hurt after all these years. The planet had 50,000 humans living there. Families, children, old people, normal colonists. Our intelligence said they had maybe 200 soldiers. We brought 5,000 elite warriors. It should have been easy. A young officer asked, "What went wrong, sir?" Vex 9 made that sound without humor again. Everything went wrong because we did not understand humans at all. When we arrived at the planet, we expected to see panic. We expected surrender messages. Instead, we got silence, complete silence. He stood up and began walking around the room as he talked. We landed our ships near their biggest city. The city was empty, all buildings were empty, no humans anywhere. At first, we thought they all ran away. Our commander was happy. He said humans were cowards after all. The room stayed very quiet. Everyone knew this story would not end well. Colonel Ben Hayes was the human military leader on that planet. We found his message for us in the empty city center. It was written on a big sign. The message said, "Welcome to our world. We hope you enjoy your stay. It will be your last." Commander Vex 9 stopped walking. His metal eye glowed brighter. That was when we realized the humans had not run away. They had prepared. Every single building in that city was a trap. Every window, every door, every room had surprises waiting for us. The humans had spent months getting ready for war. One young officer looked confused. "But sir, where were all the people?" "Safe," Vex 9 replied. That was the first thing that surprised us about humans. They protect their weak ones first. All children, old people, and those who could not fight were sent far away to safe places. But everyone else stayed to fight. He showed them more pictures on his datapad. Images of empty human streets and buildings. We sent scouts into the city. They never came back. We sent a full squad of 20 soldiers. Only 3 came back and they were badly hurt. They told us stories that sounded impossible. The commander sat down again, but his body stayed tense. They said the humans were everywhere and nowhere. They would attack from one building, then disappear. When our soldiers went to find them, they would attack from a different building. The humans had connected all the buildings with hidden tunnels. A young officer asked, "How many humans were fighting?" That was the problem. We never knew. Sometimes it seemed like hundreds. Sometimes it seemed like just a few. The humans were very smart about this. They made us think there were more of them than there really were. Vex 9 pulled out another datapad and showed them pictures of human weapons. Look at these. Simple bombs made from farming tools, guns made from mining equipment, traps made from household items. The humans turned everything into weapons, but the weapons were not the scary part. The scary part was how they used them. The old commander's voice got quieter, making everyone lean forward to hear. Sergeant Lisa Brooks was one of their fighters. She was just a normal human woman, small, not very strong-looking. She held one apartment building for 3 weeks against 200 of our best soldiers. The young officers looked shocked. One of them said, "Impossible. How could one human fight 200 of us?" Because she was not fighting alone. And because humans think about fighting differently than we do. Every day, Lisa Brooks would attack us, then disappear. Every night, she would move to a different part of the building. We could never find her, but she always found us. Vex 9 showed them a picture of the apartment building. It looked like a normal place where families would live. She knew that building perfectly. Every room, every hiding place, every way to move without being seen. She had grown up in that building. It was her home. And humans will do anything to protect their homes. The commander stood up again and walked to the window. After 2 weeks, we thought we had her trapped on the top floor. We sent 50 soldiers up the stairs. The building exploded. Lisa Brooks had filled it with homemade bombs. She killed herself, and all 50 of our soldiers rather than let us win. The room was completely silent now. The young officers were beginning to understand what they were hearing. But that was not the end. Before she died, Lisa Brooks sent a message to all other human fighters in the city. She told them exactly how she had fought us. She told them all our weaknesses. She turned her death into a lesson for other humans. Vex 9 turned back to face the young officers. This happened everywhere. Every human who died made the others stronger. Every battle we won made the next battle harder. The humans were learning from every fight. We were not learning anything except fear. A young officer asked, "What about their leader, Colonel Hayes?" The old commander's expression got darker. Ben Hayes was different from any military leader we had ever faced. He did not try to protect his soldiers. He used them like weapons. But his soldiers followed him willingly because they trusted him completely. Vex 9 showed them a picture of Colonel Hayes. He looked like an ordinary human man, not very big or scary. Hayes started sending us messages every day, not threats or demands, stories. He told us about human history, about wars humans had fought against each other, about times when small groups of humans had defeated much larger armies. The commander sat down heavily in his chair. The stories were supposed to scare us. And they worked. Hayes told us about a place called Thermopylae, where 300 human warriors held off thousands of enemies. He told us about Stalingrad, where humans fought in their own destroyed city for months. He told us about the Alamo, where humans fought to the death rather than surrender. One young officer said, "But those were just stories from their past." "No," Vex 9 replied firmly. "Those were warnings about what humans would do to us." Hayes was telling us that humans had always fought this way, that dying in battle was normal for them, that surrender was something they did not understand. The old commander looked tired now. After 1 month on that planet, we had lost half our soldiers. The humans had lost maybe 50 fighters. But they were still fighting like the war had just started. That was when I began to understand the truth about humans. They do not get tired of war. War makes them stronger. Commander Vex 9 stood up and walked to a cabinet in the corner of the room. He pulled out a bottle of blue liquid and poured himself a drink. His hands shook slightly as he lifted the glass. What I am about to tell you next changed everything in the galaxy. Not just for us, but for everyone. The humans did something that no species had ever done before in the history of space warfare. The young officers waited. They could see that their commander was struggling with the memories. Commander Steve Miller was a human ship captain. His job was to protect medical ships that carried wounded humans to safety. Simple job, easy job. We sent 3 of our best warships to destroy those medical ships. Vex 9 drank from his glass and continued. Miller had only one old cargo ship that had been turned into a warship. 1 ship against 3 of ours. The smart thing would be to run away. Let the medical ships escape while he distracted us. But Miller did not do the smart thing. The old commander showed them a picture of Miller's ship. It looked old and damaged. Miller flew straight at our ships. He was transmitting on all frequencies so everyone could hear him. He said, "My name is Steve Miller. I am human. I protect those who cannot protect themselves. Come and stop me if you can." One young officer asked, "What happened to him?" "We destroyed his ship." But that was not the end of the story. Miller's ship exploded, but before it died, he sent one final message. He said, "Every human dies. Not every human truly lives. I lived." Remember that. Vex 9 set down his glass with a loud sound. Those words spread across the galaxy faster than any of us expected. Other species heard that message. They started asking questions. Why were humans fighting so hard? Why were they dying for strangers? Why were they happy to sacrifice everything for freedom? The commander began pacing around the room again. The Altarians were our allies. They had been helping us fight the humans, but after they heard Miller's message, they stopped helping us. Their leader said they would not help destroy a species that valued honor more than life. A young officer looked confused. "But sir, we were winning the war." "Were we?" Vex 9 asked sharply. "Let me tell you about the Battle of Titan Station. That was where I learned that humans could turn defeat into victory, even after they were dead." He pulled out another datapad and showed them images of a large space station. Titan Station was a human shipyard. They built and repaired their ships. There. We came with our entire Third Fleet, 100 ships. The humans had maybe 20 ships defending the station. The old commander's voice got quieter. The human commander was Lieutenant Commander Rachel Stone. She was young, maybe 25 human years old. When she saw our fleet, she could have surrendered. She could have evacuated everyone and saved thousands of lives. Vex 9 stopped pacing and looked directly at the young officers. Instead, she did something that still gives me nightmares. She sent a message to our fleet commander. She said, "You want this station? Come and take it, but know this, you will pay a price that you cannot imagine." The room was very quiet now. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. We attacked the station. The human ships fought bravely, but they were outnumbered 5-1. One by one, their ships were destroyed. Finally, only Rachel Stone's ship was left. Her ship was burning and breaking apart. Commander Vex 9 sat down heavily. Our fleet commander called her and offered to let her surrender. He promised that her people would be treated well. Rachel Stone laughed. She actually laughed at him. Then she said something that changed the war forever. A young officer asked, "What did she say?" She said, "You still don't understand what you're fighting, do you? You think this is about ships and stations. This is about who we are, and we are human. We do not bow, we do not break, we do not surrender. Watch and learn." Vex 9's metal eye glowed brighter as he remembered. Rachel Stone flew her dying ship into the station's main reactor, but she did not just crash into it. She had spent the entire battle preparing for this moment. She had overloaded all the station's power systems. When her ship hit the reactor, it created an explosion like a small star. The young officers looked shocked. One of them said, "She killed herself?" "She killed herself, yes, but she also killed 43 of our ships and 8,000 of our soldiers. One human woman destroyed almost half of our Third Fleet. But that was not the worst part." Commander Vex 9 stood up and walked to the window again. Before she died, Rachel Stone sent a message to every human colony in the galaxy. She said, "Tell them we were here. Tell them we fought. Tell them we never gave up. And tell them that every human who dies makes the next human stronger." The old commander turned back to face the young officers. That message started something we had never seen before. Humans everywhere began fighting harder. They began taking bigger risks. They began doing things that made no sense to us but perfect sense to them. He showed them more pictures on his datapad. Images of human soldiers and civilians. Look at their faces. After Rachel Stone died, something changed in human eyes. They were not just fighting for their colonies anymore. They were fighting for her memory. They were fighting for Steve Miller's memory. They were fighting for every human who had died. Young officer said, "But sir, dead humans cannot fight." Vex 9 made that sound without humor again. "That is where you are wrong. Dead humans are the most dangerous weapons their species has. Every human who dies becomes a story. Every story makes other humans fight harder. Every death makes surrender more impossible. The commander sat down and looked at each young officer. Our leaders did not understand this. They thought that killing humans would make other humans afraid. Instead, it made them angry. Very, very angry, and angry humans are the most dangerous things in the galaxy. He pulled out one more picture. It showed a human child, maybe 8 years old, holding a small weapon. This is Katie Wells. I met her in the ruins of a human city after we bombed it. She was just a little girl. But when she looked at me, I saw something in her eyes that made me afraid. She was not scared of me. She was studying me, learning how to fight me. Commander Vex 9's voice got very quiet. She asked me one question. Are you going to hurt my family? I told her no. She smiled and said, good, because if you did, I would have to hurt you back. She was 8 years old and she was already a warrior. The old commander looked out the window at the peaceful city. That was when I knew we had lost the war. We were not fighting soldiers. We were fighting an entire species that had turned survival into an art form. Commander Vex 9 returned to his chair one last time. The young officers could see that finishing this story was hard for him. His metal eye had stopped glowing. His scarred hands rested on the table. What I am about to tell you is why we made peace with the humans. Why our great empire, with all its power, decided to never fight humans again. This is the secret that only we senior commanders know. The room felt colder. The young officers waited. After 2 years of war, our leaders decided to end it once and for all. They gathered the biggest fleet ever assembled. Ships from 3 different empires, over 5,000 warships. The target was Earth itself, the human homeworld. Vex 9 picked up his glass but did not drink. The humans knew we were coming. They had maybe 200 ships left, 200 against 5,000. Their leader was Admiral John Parker. He commanded an old battleship called UES Resilience. That ship was older than some of our officers. Young officer asked, surely they surrendered when they saw your fleet. The old commander shook his head slowly. You still do not understand humans. Admiral Parker sent us a message when our fleet reached their solar system. He said, welcome to Earth. You have come a long way to die. We are ready for you. Vex 9 stood up and walked around the room as he continued. Our fleet commander laughed at this message. He thought Parker was being brave before death. He was wrong. Parker was not being brave. He was telling us the truth. The commander stopped walking and looked at the young officers. The battle began near Earth's moon. The humans fought like they always fought. They never retreated. They never surrendered. But this time was different. This time they had prepared something special for us. He pulled out his datapad one more time and showed them a picture of Earth. Look at this planet. Beautiful, yes? Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. The humans called it their mother world, home to 12 billion humans. A peaceful, beautiful place. One young officer said, it looks so normal. That is what we thought too. We were wrong. Earth was not a normal planet anymore. The humans had turned their entire world into the biggest weapon ever created. Commander Vex 9 sat down again, his voice getting quieter. Admiral Parker let us destroy half his fleet. He let us get close to Earth. He let us think we were winning. Then he sent us another message. This message was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. The old commander's voice began to shake. Parker said, people of the galaxy, we are human. We do not surrender, we do not retreat. We do not negotiate with those who would make us slaves. You can kill our bodies, but you cannot kill our spirit. You can destroy our ships, but you cannot destroy our freedom. Watch what humans do when there is no other choice. Vex 9 stopped talking for a long moment. When he continued, his voice was barely a whisper. Then Parker told us what the humans had done to their own planet. They had placed antimatter bombs everywhere. In every city, every town, every place where humans lived. Enough bombs to destroy the entire planet. The young officers looked shocked. One of them said, they were going to kill themselves? Not to kill themselves, Vex 9 replied. To send a message. Parker explained it to us. He said that if we invaded Earth, if we tried to make humans into slaves, they would destroy everything rather than live without freedom. The commander stood up again and walked to the window. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was what Parker said next. He said, "We know that other human colonies exist throughout the galaxy. We know that some humans will survive even if Earth dies, and those humans will remember what you did here. They will never forgive, they will never forget. They will hunt you across the stars until every one of you is dead." Vex 9 turned back to face the young officers. Parker gave us a choice. Leave Earth alone and make peace, or destroy Earth and face endless war with every human in the galaxy. He said, "Choose wisely. This is your only chance." A young officer asked, "What did your fleet commander do?" He tried to call Parker's bluff. He said humans would never destroy their own world. Parker's answer was simple. He said, "You still don't know us at all. Watch and learn." Commander Vex 9's metal eye began glowing again as he remembered. Parker began counting down from 10. When he reached 5, he sent us proof that the bombs were real. He detonated one small bomb in an empty area. The explosion was visible from space. The old commander sat down heavily. At the count of 3, our allied fleets began retreating. The Altarians left first, then the Rigel merchants. Even some of our own ships began to pull back. Nobody wanted to be responsible for destroying an entire planet. He looked at each young officer, but our fleet commander was too proud to retreat. He kept his ships in attack position. Parker reached 0 in his countdown. I thought he was bluffing. I thought no species would really destroy their own world. Vex 9's voice got very quiet. Parker activated the bombs. Not all of them. Just enough to destroy one human city. A city with 2 million people in it. People who could have been saved if they had evacuated. But they stayed. They chose to die to prove that humans meant what they said. The room was completely silent now. The message was clear. Humans would rather die than be slaves. All of them. Every single human in the galaxy. And they proved it by killing 2 million of their own people just to show us they were serious. Commander Vex 9 stood up one final time. That was when our fleet commander finally understood. We were not fighting for territory or resources, we were fighting against the idea of freedom itself. And that was a war we could never win. He walked to the door of the room. The war ended that day. Not because we were defeated in battle, because we realized that defeating humans was impossible. You cannot defeat a species that will choose death over slavery. You cannot conquer people who will destroy everything rather than give up their freedom. The old commander opened the door but turned back to look at the young officers one more time. Admiral Parker sent us one final message as our fleets retreated. He said, "Remember this day. Remember that humans offered you peace and you chose war. Remember that we gave you a chance to leave in honor. If you ever threaten us again, there will be no countdown. There will be no warning. There will only be fire." Commander Vex 9 stepped through the doorway. That is why we have peace with humans now. Not because we are friends, because we are afraid. We learned that some species are too dangerous to fight and too valuable to destroy. We learned that freedom is more important to humans than life itself. He paused in the doorway. And that, young officers, is why you will never be sent to fight humans, because our empire chooses to survive. The door closed behind him, leaving the young officers alone with the terrible knowledge of what humans really were.